Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Scotland, but we're going to go to another brewery that I've never tried anything from before. So these guys are another relatively new addition to the Scottish beer scene. They seem to be quite prolific in their output, brewing lots and lots of different styles, and I've heard very good things about their beers actually, so definitely cool to introduce these guys to you on the channel here for the first time. Now, the beer we're going to have a look at today is a style that I very much enjoy, but one that you don't see too many new examples of in Scotland at the moment, but hopefully that will change, and this is supposed to be a very nice example of that style actually. So, needless to say, I'm very curious to see what this one is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to a little place called Pitlochry, which is on the kind of southwestern edge of the Cairngorm National Park, a little bit to the northwest-ish of Perth, right in the middle of Scotland, and we're going to have a look at my first beer then from Wasted Degrees Brewing. So this particular beer is called the Limited Edition West Coast IPA. It comes in at 6.5% ABV, and from the name I think you guys know what style this one is. So yeah, I actually can't remember where I bought this beer. It might have been at the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant in Dunfermline. I think he had a few different beers from Wasted Degrees actually, and out of the 3 or so that he had, this was the one that kind of caught my eye the most, because I do enjoy a good West Coast IPA, and I've tried some of the really good ones here in Scotland, you know, from the likes of Cromarty Brewery. Tempest of course are very good in this particular style category as well. So to find one from a brewery that I'd heard good things about but not tried yet was the thing that kind of reeled me in. But yeah, 6.5% West Coast IPA from Wasted Degrees Brewing in Pitlochry in the middle of Scotland. So yeah, let's crack on and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my future reviews that I'll do from Wasted Degrees Brewing. Very first time trying one of the beers as I mentioned, but I'm sure it won't be the last. But there's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and if you want to see more reviews you can also check out the playlist of beers from different countries as well. Yeah, you can go into the channel homepage too and search for beer using the little search bar. Just put in your hometown, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. And failing that, just check out the playlist from different countries. You'll find this one in the Scottish playlist along with a number of other things. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Wasted Degrees Brewing for the first time. So, as I've mentioned to you already, Wasted Degrees Brewing are based in Pitlochry, and the company was founded back in 2016 by Connell Lowe. So he had started homebrewing in his parents' garage back in about 2010, and he graduated as a teacher in 2014. So he taught for about 2 years, and then in 2016 he decided that he wanted to take up his hobby again, but turn it into a profession. And so he started brewing again in his parents' garage, and he was just starting off with 50-litre batches and stuff like this. But his beer went down very well when he took it to festivals and things like that, from what I understand, and it was very popular locally as well. But the brewery soon outgrew the garage, and so in 2019 they moved to an industrial unit in Blair, Atholl, and then in 2021 his older brother Jack left his career in whisky to join the company as a co-owner, and he'd previously worked in international business development for the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. I can't speak tonight obviously, but they were soon joined after this by Andrew McNeilage, who came to join the brew team having worked on the boats for many years, and these days they can produce around 20,000 litres of beer per month, and the brewery is apparently completely powered by renewables. They do open up the brewery on the weekends, I believe, for an on-site tap room, so that is something that I will need to go and check out at some stage. Because it would be cool to do a little out and about video there. I love doing the out and about videos at the random places in Scotland. You know, my favourite one that I've done so far would have to be Tempest down in Galashiels. That was really cool to go there. So yeah, hopefully we can go and visit Wasted Degrees at some point. But as of July 2023, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 50 different kinds of beer according to Untappd. And like I said to you earlier, these guys are pretty prolific and they do lots and lots of different styles. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Wasted Degrees Brewing for the moment. I'm sure as time goes on we'll be able to add more to that. But we'll just need to wait and see. But yeah, if you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on then and have a little look at the beer itself. So, the name, I never mentioned that, the name Wasted Degrees I think is because, I think it's a reference to the fact that Connell and Jack basically studied degrees to do certain things but then ended up doing jobs that are completely different. So yeah, I think that was the main idea behind them using the name Wasted Degrees. But there you can see the Wasted Degrees symbol on the top of the can there. The artwork on this one is a little bit different compared to what you'll get on their regular beers from what I understand. It's a 440ml can. You can see plain silver top there, and yeah, I do like how it has the salt tire on the back there to tell you this is Scotch produce. So yeah, it says on the side here, West Coast IPA brewed at a renewables powered brewery in Highland, Perthshire, an ode to the classic US West Coast style when bitterness was IPA's middle name. A solid malt backbone joined by all those resinous pine and dank notes from Equinol, Amarillo and Columbus hops. So yeah, we know all of these hops pretty well. All three of them are American. Equinol is about 14% alpha acid. It tends to give you lovely big limey notes. Amarillo is about 12% alpha acid. Big oily zesty orange. And then Columbus is quite an interesting one. Usually used as a bittering hop. About 12% alpha acid, and it gives you this really spicy floral aromaticity in my experience. So yeah, this should be very nice. 440ml can. I actually can't remember what I paid for this one, to be honest with you. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. Always exciting to try beers from new breweries in Scotland. And one of the other ones that I really want to check out that I've heard good things about is Dog Falls Brewery. So yeah, those guys are from Inverness, and it was really Wasted Degrees 2 towns over, and Dog Falls that I wanted to hit up on this trip back to the motherland. So yeah, 1 out of 3 so far. But yeah, anyway, so as you can see, this beer has poured pretty much as you would expect of a West Coast IPA. So before the head disappears, we can see that this one has poured with about a half finger of a frothy, I would say, perfect white head. You can see it's got a mix of nice foamy bubbles there and kind of medium sized things. But yeah, it looks very nice. In terms of the colour of this one, this has got a lovely kind of pale golden straw type colour to it. Not even a little hint of amber actually, which is quite interesting. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of a technical background about the West Coast IPAs. For me, these beers can go 2 ways. They can either be more kind of oily and caramelly, such as the Sierra Nevada Torpedo, or they can be a little bit more bready and biscuity, such as the Pliny the Elder from Russian River Brewing. So yeah, there's a kind of spectrum for these beers. In comparison to the New England IPA, West Coast IPAs tend to use pretty much all barley malt. They always use a little bit more kind of early addition hopping as well, which gives them their higher bitterness, of course. The haze in New England IPAs comes from the use of oat and wheat malt as well, and of course they rely on late addition and dry hopping rather than anything else. But yeah, the West Coast IPA back in the day was a more kind of bitter beast, about 70-80 IBUs at a minimum. But yeah, just going by the appearance of this one and its kind of golden nature, I think it looks a little bit more amber to you guys on the camera than it does to me with the naked eye. But going by the fact that this one is so kind of bright and yellow, I think this is going to be a more kind of bready and biscuity type affair. But yeah, 1 or 2 big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass with this one, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there, and you can see that head has just faded away to be a nice kind of thin foamy layer, and it gives you a ring around the edge of the glass. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, like I say, a bit of a lighter, kind of more hazy, naturally hazy I should say, Yellow colour. You have to be careful with that word when you're talking about West Coast IPAs. But yeah, remember the colour of your beer depends on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put in will affect the colour of your beer too. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that when it comes to different kinds of IPAs. But yeah, in terms of a West Coast IPA, the way this one appears is certainly within the realms of possibility. There's nothing too unusual about that. But yeah, let's have a wee look at the nose of this one then and see what it's going to have in store for us. Really curious about this. Oh yeah, you can smell this one is going. This is a bit more old school. This really is quite old school, this one. And I mean, for me, when I think about West Coast IPAs in Scotland, the one that really kind of got me onto this style was the hardcore IPA that Brewdog did, and then you had other things that came out, the likes of the Marmalade on Rye and the Long White Cloud from Tempest. You had Happy Chappy and Rogue Wave and things like that from Cromarty Brewing as well. Those were the two kind of big, or those were the few kind of big West Coast IPAs that we had back in the day. And I still say that, Tempest are probably the best all-round brewery in Scotland. The longer White Cloud that they did is a great beer too. But this, this you can see, you can smell the quality in this one, and this is kind of what I've heard about this brewery. Yeah, I mean, straight away with this one, it gives you everything that you would expect of the style. You get that big, deep, dank, spicy, bitter, green note from the hops. You can smell like a deeper, you can smell a nice kind of bread crusty note out of this one. You've got the breadiness is in there, you've got a bit of sweetness out of it too, and you've got these big oily fruits. Yeah, this is a proper old school West Coast IPA. Many of the more modern West Coast IPAs don't have the bitterness that the older ones had, and that's mainly because a lot of newer drinkers of craft beer have gotten into IPAs with the lower IBUs, but this one I think is going to be a bit of a bitter beast, and I'm happy about that. So let's break the aroma of this one down a wee bit more and just describe it for you that little bit more in depth. So yeah, the backbone of this one for me is exactly what you'd want. I do wonder if there's a bit of Maris Otter malt in this one actually. There's just a few things setting off my nose there. But yeah, the backbone of this beer, you get that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust there. That's forming the backbone of this beer, 100%. You do get a little touch of woodiness coming out of it as well, but that's very, very minimal. And then above the, yeah, a little bit of fresh white bready bread crust in there, a little touch of woodiness. Above that, there's maybe just a wee hint of like a Jacob's cream cracker sort of thing. Then you've got a little bit of like a wholemeal brown bready character. You do get a little touch of graininess out of this beer, and it's that little bit of graininess and the kind of sweeter nature of the brown bread that's making me wonder if there's a little bit of Maris Otter in this one. The other bready characters that you're getting out of this are a little bit more akin to like German crystal malt, some variety of German crystal malt. There's so many that it's quite hard to pick out, but you can pick out these little nuances and say roughly where the malt came from. I think there's crystal in this, and I think there's a little bit of Maris Otter. So yeah, above the kind of wholemeal brown bready character, you start to get a bigger and dense, more dense white bready character out of this one. I've just noticed on the can that it says there's wheat in this. Now, as I said earlier, most West Coast IPAs tend to be all barley malt, but you do find ones occasionally that have a little bit of oat or a little bit of wheat. If I remember rightly, Sculpin from Ballast Point is one of the benchmarks of the style, I guess, that has a little bit of wheat in it. But that makes sense with this one, that you can get a lot of white bread and quite a dense white bread out of the beer. But then, yeah, above all of that, you start to get a little bit, you do get a little bit of the more kind of biscuity character coming out of this beer too. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a wee touch of Pilsner malt in this one, and that was a popular thing to do with IPAs a couple of years ago was just to put that little touch of Pilsner malt in there to give you a wee bit of crispness and also a wee bit more biscuity character. But yeah, this beer, it definitely has a little touch of like a sweet caramelly note in the middle of the nose. You've got a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity character as well. Like I say, there's a little bit of almost like Pilsnery crispness coming out of the malt base too. So that's really interesting with this one. Yeah. Other than that, I don't know if there's too much to say about the malt base of this one, other than that you get a little bit more brown bread and graininess and stuff the more that you smell of this one. I think we can actually go on to the hoppy side of things and have a look at it. So yeah, for me, the green component in this beer, you do get a little bit of earthiness out of this one, but it's a bit difficult to say. I don't know which one of the three hops the earthiness would come from, really. Columbus is most likely to be used as the bittering hop. So remember, when you brew IPAs, you have 3 different kinds of hoppings that you can do. We'll use a 90-minute wort boil as our model, because it's quite common. So within the first hour, if you add hops during the first hour of the wort boil, that's called early addition hopping. That gives you mainly bitterness. And in the aroma, that's going to translate to a kind of deep, dank aroma like we're getting here. Late addition hopping, which takes place within the last half hour of the wort boil, it gives you mainly flavour and aroma in your flavour and your nose and things like this. But yeah, that's going to translate to like a brighter green component in the flavour. And then dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, that's going to give you pretty much all flavour and aroma and give you a really bright green component and a lot of fruity character as well. So that's the kind of thing that's the kind of thing that you get out of this one. You can smell that it's got that deeper, danker aroma, which is an indicator of early addition hopping, which is characteristic of the West Coast IPA style. So yeah, there's a little bit of earthiness in there. You do have a little bit of pine resin in this one, but the green component is mainly like a very spicy floral aromaticity, and that's a characteristic for sure of the Columbus hop. Very distinctive thing. But yeah, other than that, you've got a nice kind of fresh, grassy, zesty aroma coming out of it at the front of the nose, and then you get the fruits. I mean, it's quite distinctive. You get that nice kind of juicy lime from the Equinox, and you've got that big oily zesty orange as well from the Amarillo. There's maybe just a teeny little hint of something else in there, like a little bit of dried apricot or pear or something like that. But yeah, the two main the two main flavour hops in this one are coming out quite nicely. But yeah, the more you sugar this beer up, the more you get that big spicy floral aromaticity out of it. So yeah, I really like how this beer goes together in terms of its aroma. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to just ponder over that aroma before you get stuck into the beer. And I think now it's about time that we have a taste of this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is my first beer from Wasted Degrees Brewing in Blair, Atholl, Pitlochry in Perthshire in the middle of Scotland. Yeah, a West Coast IPA, limited edition West Coast IPA at 6.5% ABV. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Ooh, that's pretty nice. I'm going to say straight away, that's a pretty damn solid beer. Yeah, that is good. I'm going to say straight away, thumbs up to Wasted Degrees for this. This is good. Now I will say, straight away with this one, you can feel it is a little bit it does have a little bit of rawness to it, and obviously if it's been brewed as like a single batch or something like this, and it is a kind of pilot batch, it kind of makes sense. Like this beer, it's got a really solid base to it, and if it's refined properly, this could be like a really solid core range beer for them. You can taste one or two little kind of imperfections and things like that, and it has got like a wee touch of kind of smokiness and things to the malt, like a chariness or something. You do get a little bit of that in the aftertaste with it, But the actual, you know, that's just a little thing with a brew kit or something. But yeah, with this one, the malt base and stuff, you can taste it. The malt base is good, the yeast is good, and the hop profile is really good in this one. So, you know, once they iron things out with this recipe and stuff like that, then I think this could be a really, really nice beer actually. But it's pretty damn solid as it stands, and it gives you everything you'd want in the style. You've got the breadiness in there, you've got a little bit of sweetness, a nice big green component, and you've got the oily, fruity character. This beer is good, and I can see why people have said, you know, Wasted Degrees Brewing are pretty damn solid at what they're doing. Yeah, this is good. The other thing, I think, this one says it's best before November 2023. I'm drinking this one in July. I'm not sure exactly when it was canned. It doesn't say. So we need to remember as well that this beer is potentially like 2 or 3 months old. I really couldn't tell you. I don't think it's that old, to be honest with you. So that might explain 1 or 2 of the little kind of imperfections that I was getting out of it. But it's pretty good. It's pretty damn good, I have to say. So, and I will say those little off flavours that I was picking up, the more that you drink of the beer and the more your palate adjusts to it, the less of them you get. But it does have just a little bit of that kind of, it still has a wee bit of that kind of raw home brewery type vibe to it. And again, as the brewery kind of grows up a little bit, these little things will disappear. But yeah, let's break this beer down then and just describe it for you that wee bit more in depth. So, middle third of your palate then, the backbone of the beer. You've got a kind of toasty, sort of brown, it's almost toasty, very slightly well fired, kind of bread crusty base there. You get a good bit of dryness out of this beer the further into the aftertaste that you go. So that roasty, toasty bread crust there is just lingering in the backbone. So as you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little touch of woodiness toward the front there, but then on top of that kind of bread crusty note, you get a little bit of Jacob's cream cracker almost, a little bit of just a crackery character out of the beer. And then yeah, you have a lovely sort of wholemeal brown bready character just sitting on top of all of that there. So yeah, a lovely wholemeal kind of brown bready character there, and then the fluffy, you do get that kind of fluffy or white bready character just sitting on top of it as well. So yeah, wholemeal brown bread, fluffy or white bread, and you can feel a little bit of a more dense white bready character sitting on top of that from the wheat actually. So that's kind of interesting too. But then above the wheat, you start to get a little bit of sweetness out of the beer too, which is nice. So above the wheat, like I said earlier, this is a little bit more of a, it is a little bit more of a kind of bready leaning West Coast IPA. It's got it really leans more toward that kind of bready side of things. But yeah, above that, in the dead centre of your palate, you do get a little touch of like a straight up sweet caramel there, but not too much. And as you move out toward the edges of that middle third of your palate, you're getting a little bit more kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type quality out of this one. So that's really interesting with this beer, I have to say as well. But yeah, I think that covers what we need to say about the middle third of your palate with this one. So yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, in terms of let's move to the back third of the palate then. Things, as I've said before, the back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, but generally speaking, sweeter flavours are going to come out further forward on the palate, more bitter and darker flavours are going to come out further back. Anyway, so on the back third of your palate then, in that border region, you can feel a little bit of a bready build up there, so you get that nice kind of bready build up there. A little bit of brown bread in the base, a little bit of white bread kind of on top of that. And then the base of the back third of the palate, yeah, you get that toasty, well-fired, bread crusty character there again. Like I said, I think that's maybe a slight issue with the brew kit. You can sometimes get that as an imperfection with your brew kit and things. But yeah, you get a little bit of that there, that toasty, well-fired bread crust in the base. Above that, you get the cracker, which again feels a little bit drier. You've got the wholemeal brown bready layer, which feels a little bit lighter and more airy and slightly taller. Then you've got the white bready layer above that, which again feels lighter and more airy. And then you can feel some of the wheaty character just sitting on top of that. And the wheat gives you a little bit of bitiness in this beer as well, which is kind of interesting. So, yeah, I feel that in there. Above the kind of wheaty bitiness, as I say, you get a little bit of yeastiness coming out in this beer. And so the yeasty character has a little bit of a kind of brown bready, farmhousey type character to it. A little bit of cracker, a little bit of wood, and it's kind of wrapped in honeycomb. But you do get a little bit of this like slightly smoky, charry, well-fired, bread crusty sort of thing wrapped around that as well. So the little slight off flavour that I'm getting in this one could be due to something with the yeast, but it lingers into the aftertaste actually. So yeah, that's one of the things with this actually. It's a little technical brewing thing that's coming out in this. But yeah, it is kind of minor. As I say, the more that you drink of this beer, the less of it you get. And it definitely kind of happens. But yeah, in terms of the malty and yeasty side of the beer, I think that's all we need to say, other than the fact that on the back third of the palate the flavour is taller, and as you come further forward into the middle third of your palate, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. So yeah, the way that goes together is pretty damn nice. So, yeah, in terms of that, we can move on to the hoppy and bitter side of things now. So yeah, the green component of this beer is pretty damn punchy. In the back corners of the palate, you absolutely get a little bit of a kind of earthy character there, but as you move further forward from that along the sides of the palate, you get that big, deep, dank, kind of pine resin-y character. But very quickly, as you reach the kind of front corners of your palate, it becomes more of a kind of spicy floral aromaticity, which is what you would expect of Columbus, of course. But round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is definitely a little bit lighter and more grassy. You get a wee touch of zestiness out of it, of course, so you can feel that kind of lingering there with this one. And then, yeah, that goes into the aftertaste too. But yeah, the kind of spicy floral aromaticity and that very slight toastiness that the beer has, yeah, they kind of promote each other, to be honest with you. But let's have a wee look at the front third of your palate then. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in there. You can feel the kind of brown bread in the base and the white bread on top. Then the backbone of that front third of your palate, a little bit of kind of toasty bread crust in there, some brown bread on top of that, some white bread, and then you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So, the fruity side of this beer is really quite nice again. I mean, for me, you get a little touch of like grapefruit at the back of that front third of your palate. I do wonder as well, that's the other thing, is I wonder with this beer how much of that almost kind of toastiness and spiciness you're getting out of this. That it could all just be down to the use of the Columbus, to be honest with you. It could just be dominating the whole flavour of the beer. That's kind of, Chinook for me would be my choice of bittering hop, because it has that more oily, piney resin note to it rather than the spicy floral aromaticity. But yeah, that's it. So what I've actually said about the issue with the brew kit, however, that could be slightly wrong in this one. I don't know. The fact that it's in the middle of the palate is what was making me think about that. But anyway, yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate where you're getting the fruitiness, it has got a kind of stronger grapefruity note, but as you move further forward, the grapefruit kind of mellows out, and you start to get the more zesty, oily orange from the Amarillo. Yeah, you get that more zesty, oily orange from the Amarillo, and a juicy kind of limey, limey character from the Equinault kind of sitting on top of it. So yeah, the Equinault and the Amarillo are behaving exactly as you would expect them to, and Columbus as well in this beer. So this one is kind of what I would have predicted it as being from having read the can and then from actually having seen the beer. It's turned out pretty much as I would have expected, but the bitterness in this one is pretty damn high. And on that note, I think we should round off the review with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, it's pretty much right in the middle of the spectrum when it comes to its mouthfeel. Mid-bodied, the carbonation is smooth, it's got a nice cleanliness to it, but also a little touch of smoothness. In terms of the IBUs, it's definitely, you know, like a big, this is a big beast, you know, 90-ish IBUs, something like that. Good bit of the Columbus coming out of this one. The malt, as we say, has a little bit of toastiness underneath, a smooth and slightly sweeter bready character that comes out of it. It's a bit harder to pick out exactly whether it's Crystal or Maris Otter from the flavour. It's a bit more obvious in the aroma, I would say, but you've got that nice kind of big bready character there, a little bit of sweetness on top, and then you have the you have the kind of nice oily fruitiness out of this one, which is a more kind of zesty, citrusy leaning sort of thing. The lime and the orange, of course, from the Equinault and the Amarillo, respectively. But yeah, this is a really nice beer, this one. You can still feel it's a little bit raw, with it being a kind of pilot batch or something like that, I would guess. But yeah, if they take the time to refine this one, I think they'll get it. They'll get it pretty nicely. But it's a very good. I've got a very good first impression of Wasted Degrees Brewing, so we'll need to try a few more of their beers. We'll see if we can do a lager and something slightly more malty, actually, going forward. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This was the limited edition West Coast IPA from Wasted Degrees Brewing in Pitlochry in Perthshire here in Scotland, right on the edge of the Cairngorm National Park. I nearly forgot the name there. But once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Wasted Degrees Brewing as well. And if you do have any Scottish brewery recommendations, don't hesitate to put those in the comments section below as well. But check out my social media, check out Wasted Degrees social media. Really cool to finally introduce these guys to you here on the channel, and hopefully we'll get more done soon. Until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers. Make sure you check out this brewery, lovely West Coast IPA. Slàinte just now.